What's going on? All thanks for tuning in once again. Let's talk Herndon versus Wilder. Wilder's coming back. It's been over a year now. So basically, he's having a fight after the loss of Zhang. So he's had a couple of surgeries, and he's saying that he's now 100%. So I'm expecting him to knock out Herndon within 3 rounds. I don't see this fight going long at all. Herndon's a guy that's lost to multiple fighters. Not really a defensive fighter himself, Herndon. When he does get hurt, he tends to back off, tends to try to survive. He's not really a good defensive fighter, where the key to beating Wilder is coming forward. So I'm expecting Herndon to be very hesitant of that right hand and to be a bit too cautious. With a guy like Wilder, you've got to really come forward and close the gap. You can't afford him to have space. And I think in this fight, we may actually see Wilder coming forward. Last two fights, people understood how to beat him because of how Fury did it. So Fury was basically the blueprint of how to beat Wilder. Look, back in the day, people used to be too afraid or too cautious of the right hand, and Wilder's ring coverage will just catch them. He'll blind them with that partially lead hand, that partial jab, and then all of a sudden the right hand's coming at fast speed. He'll be from one side of the ring to the other and he'll catch you. Most of the time Wilder catches guys like that, from distance. Just recently we've seen him shorten that right hand. Robert Helenius, we saw him shorten the right hand in the Fury trilogy, the second knockdown, where he's able to drop them with a short right hand. So there's a couple of elements to Wilder's game here, So he's discovered how to shorten the right hand, but against Zhang, he was just challenging a guy that knew how to roll that right hand, so not taking it fully. Zhang was rolling the punch. Zhang was able to counter him with the right hook, because Wilder's overextending that right hand, trying to land it, it's mid to long range instead of a short punch. He's throwing the knockout punch, trying to land it like he used to, and Zhang's able to partially take it, so he's basically countering him with the right hand, leaning backwards, so not taking the full impact of the shot. And it's guys like that that are crafty enough to do that against Wilder. Zhang was backing up a couple of times when Wilder threw the right hand, and that was basically his strategy to counter him with the right hook. Wilder's thinking that he's going to back up. Instead, Zhang leans back and throws the right hook, and then ends him again with another right. That's how seasoned Zhang is. He's able to knock you out with the right hand, and he's a left-handed fighter. Tyrrell Herndon's not seasoned at all in that aspect. He's not a medalist like Zhang. He's not a boxer like Parker. He doesn't have that experience. And Wilder's only lost to experienced guys. Fury, Zhang, and Parker. So Wilder hasn't really lost anything, in my opinion. If anything, he's just a bit too gun shy. He used to throw that right hand with confidence early. Now he sort of tries to time it in the later rounds. He needs to throw it earlier and throw it more. So I mean, with the layoff, he has had a couple of surgeries, I believe. So I'm hoping that him being 100%, we see Wilder throwing the right hand a lot more. I do think that he still has potential of getting a title shot. He still has potential of beating these top guys. He still has that right hand. I still think that he's got the biggest punch in the heavyweight division. He now knows how to shorten it. He just needs to throw it more. He needs to use the jab more as well. He wasn't using the jab much in the Zhang fight, and in the Parker fight, he was just a bit too patient. The rounds were just going too quick. He wasn't throwing it enough. So let's hope that he was injured, and let's hope that we see a glimpse of the old Wilder where he was knocking guys out earlier, especially a guy like Tyrrell Herndon. I'm expecting him to knock him out within 3 rounds. And I think that he will. I think that he definitely will. I think he still has a good 2-3 years in him. He just needs to forget about the draws of what he's learning with Malik Scott. Forget about that. We know that Wilder's a guy that throws a good 1-2, and that second punch tends to knock them out. Well, if it's just a one punch, it's a right hand. So Wilder just needs to be right once. If anything, he should work on his defense. He needs to work on protecting the left side of his face. We saw a similar thing with Wardley, where he would turn the shot and you wouldn't really see him, ducking or, weaving under the right hand of the opponent. He wasn't really moving to his left. He was always moving right. And we're seeing similar things with Wilder. When someone's throwing their right hand, he's unable to counter it or block it. He's always taking it on the side of the head, and with the right punch, it tends to just change him on the ring. His equilibrium's gone. So he's got to be more defensively on the left side of his face and just throw more jabs. He now knows how to shorten the right hand, which is good. And just be more busier. He's got to be more busier. I know that he only needs to be right once, but, he needs to take more chances, more risks, letting their right hand go more and just being more defensively, maybe having one hand up if you can. So I'm expecting a knockout, devastating fashion as he usually does. And hopefully his arm's good enough now that he can let that right hand go more. I'm looking forward to the fight. I'm looking forward for the knockout. I know a lot of people will disagree with the fight, who's Herndon, but Wilder, if he's saying that his arm wasn't right, maybe we do need to just see him knock someone out. It's been a while since he's done that, since Hellenius. So let's see if Wilder still has that big punch on him. Leave your take on it. What do you think? Do you think he should hang up the gloves? I think he still has a good 2 years in him. He started late in the sport. He's still got a bit of mileage on him, in my opinion. A guy with a big punch, the heavyweight division's power's always the last to go. So Wilder's still got a good 2-3 years in him. That's my take. Leave yours, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.